Welcome to episode 3 of my streaming tutorials, where we will be discussing streaming hardware and recording hardware. What do you need to do either or both? There are a few things you have to keep in mind before going on to this journey, and that is first, deciding exactly what the direction you're going for is. So you may want to think, do I want to record for YouTube? Do I want to stream on YouTube, Twitch, Mixer, Facebook, whatever platform you wish? Do I want to do both? There's scenarios for everything. So if you just want to stream to something, say like Twitch, which is what I have experience with, all the videos that go live are recorded if you have the option to do that, if it is turned on, of course. And maybe you say, well, then I'll just get the VOD from Twitch later and do whatever I want. But you may want a higher quality recording, so that means you'd have to stream and record. So if you just want to stream and don't care much about the VOD, there are some specific settings you will need and some specific hardware you will need depending on exactly what game you want to stream. But there are guidelines for every platform. Twitch has different guidelines than Mixer, and then YouTube, and then anything else, and then Facebook. But we will be getting into that in a future episode. For the time being, let's discuss a basic streaming machine and what it will require. If you are gaming on said machine as well, you probably will have a decent graphic card, anything from a GTX 1050 above. If it's in the newer series, even better. And a CPU that's at least a quad core, and you will want 8 gigs of RAM. People saying streaming requires a lot of RAM. It depends. It depends. In my experience, it depends a lot on what settings you go for, and we will see that soon. But 8 gig for a basic stream is enough. To give you a hint, a stream that renders at 720p takes about 500 megs of RAM, which is really not that much in an 8 gig system anyway. So if you want to be safe, you could go with 16 gig. So my recommendation would be one of the newer AMD cards or the newer Nvidia cards, a quad core 8-thread CPU from either AMD or Intel. Doesn't really matter when it comes to streaming, although going higher up we will see those differences. 8 gigs of RAM, 16 if you want to feel safe. Storage, if you're just streaming, doesn't matter, but of course the more storage you have, the more games you can hold on it and the more recordings you can hold on it, so best to keep that in mind. And a connection which is decent enough to stream at a high bitrate. Now you can work with smaller bit rates, we'll get into that in the advanced, but I would recommend a minimum, if you want a really high quality stream, a minimum of 4 megabits of upload. You could do it with less. I remember streaming with 1 megabit of upload. We'll get into that later. It gets a bit technical, but if you want good quality, I'd suggest 4. When doing recording, we can apply the same specs, but that eliminates the connection requirement because you're doing it offline. That, in that case, means we need larger space. So if you're saving a lot of videos, a lot of clips, you just need a larger hard drive or a larger SSD. The connection doesn't play when it comes to recording. If you are recording and streaming at the same bitrate with the same encoders, and we will see what that means, but if you're doing the exact same quality on both stream and recording, then there is no extra overhead. It's using the exact same amount of resources for both. If there is a difference between them, it will use a different set of resources. Now you can encode both on CPU or on GPU. The newer Nvidia GPUs have a better encoding chip, so it helps a bit better, but you could do both with separate resources at separate resolutions without conflicting with each other. There are some limitations, very small ones, and we will see those going forward, but for now that's all you need to know. So if you're doing any kind of recording or streaming, even if both at the same resolution, a quad core 8-thread CPU, 8 gigs of RAM, and one of the newer GPUs. In the next video, we'll be seeing the differences between a single PC setup and a multiple PC setup. If you've liked this information, don't forget to follow the links below and leave a comment if you want me to cover anything specific or have anything to add to this. See you in the next one.